We have one retrofit project that is very exciting, and what is so special about this retrofit project, this home is only 11 years old. I like to point out his quotes right here that were in one of the newspaper articles recently. We're going to try to make this thing tight enough to float in the ocean.
I designed this house and built this house 12 years ago, and it felt somehow vaguely dishonest to just leave it as a regular old, as Kat and Mike would say, a dinosaur house. I want it to last forever and be enjoyed and used as shelter forever.
One day he said, "Would you mind if I went to Urbana 3 times this summer?" And so at first it was just to become a certified passive house consultant. You know, like all journeys, you don't know what you're getting to. And then when he came home last December, so another Christmas, and said, "I'm going to do our house." And what I finally started to say is, well, somebody has to go first.
This house is probably a fairly average house. It's newer than average because it's only 12 years old, but it's not much smaller than the average house. It's at 2,100 square feet. It's just slightly smaller than the national average. Many millions of houses have been built in the 70s and 80s and 90s with relatively modern energy codes. So our house had double glazed vinyl frame windows. We had 6 inches of insulation in 2x6 walls. So that's all fairly conventional, and we basically added to that. This wall used to end right here, and now it comes out another 10 inches. And that insulation is 100% high density cellulose that was blown in from the top. So these Larson trusses go all the way from the mud sill to the top plate of the second floor, and they were filled with cellulose with tubes from the very top. This is the existing 2x6 stud framed wall, and then you can see right outside the window the Larson trusses with a little metal wrapping the opening. These are the workhorse windows of the house because these bring in a great amount of heat on the clear days. When we started replacing the windows, we noticed that the old headers were 3 pieces of 2x10 nailed together, which was a huge thermal bridge. So we worked with the engineer to use a laminated veneer header, which is only 1 3/4 inches thick. So we were able to use 3-inch thick piece of extruded polystyrene foam insulation. So instead of being a cold spot in the house, this part of the wall is just as well insulated as to the sides. This is one of the walls that we couldn't thicken and insulate to the outside because we're already so close to the street. So we thickened it to the inside. The 2x6 stud wall, we packed another level of fiberglass batt insulation into the stud cavities, but then we used extruded polystyrene foam insulation and brought it in another 9 inches. So this wall is just as thick as the walls with Larson trusses, but instead of adding the 10 inches to the outside of the existing stud wall, we added it on the inside. And so this wall becomes an R55 wall, and we splayed the openings to create an illusion that the window's bigger than it actually is. And we'll finish this with a white material, and the sill will be light colored as well to basically reflect the light that comes in the window and bring more light into the room. So we tripled the amount of insulation in the house. We gave away a high-performance furnace to charity. We did that in September, knowing that the weather was just going to keep on getting colder, in confidence that we'd be able to heat the house with very small electric heaters, mainly because the heating load would be so small, we just would not be losing very much heat in the winter. Just go ahead and pull yourself up there and just stand on the counter. And then look over to your left.
So we get really...
That's the distribution box that distributes fresh air from the HRV, and it goes from the sheet metal on the left into the box, and it splits into 4 of the 3-inch flexible plastic tubes. One goes directly out into the dining room, and then 3 go upstairs inside a wall to provide fresh air for 3 different rooms upstairs. They have a box that is a register that we'll install in the wall. We've just run the tubes, but this is one of the tubes that came from that distribution box downstairs. Then there's another one right on the other side of the wall that brings fresh air into this room. Now that one terminates in a sheet metal distribution. So that one will take a wall-mounted diffuser that'll be installed directly in that hole. There'll be 2 returns in this bathroom, 2 in the downstairs bathroom, and 2 in the master bathroom to make sure that we get plenty of ventilation to pull odors and moisture out of the bathrooms. So this is a casement window from Sirius Windows, and it was broken in shipping, but it has given us the benefit of being able to have a hands-on learning experience. The window has glass on the outside and glass on the inside, but it has 2 panes of clear plastic film on the inside, and that's the secret because that creates 3 different cells that can be filled with heavy gases to reduce conduction heat transfer. But even though this is invisible, you can see that it's quite strong. So we wanted to get the maximum solar gain from our operable windows, and that meant to go with a very low profile frame, and those are on the south side, and so those windows don't open anymore. But to make up for it, we've got our operable windows on the west side of the house and the east side of the house. So in the summer, when we want to go with natural ventilation, we can open those windows and we can get a nice flow through ventilation from the west to the east. And we get dependable, cool southern breezes virtually every night of the summer. What we've noticed already is the house is more comfortable, it's less drafty, and it's very stable. It used to be that we'd turn the heat off when we went to bed at 10 o'clock, and it would dip down sometimes as low as 60 degrees, and the furnace would sometimes come on during the night because our lowest setting was at 60 degrees on the thermostat. Now we leave the small heaters on all night. The house is 68 or 70 when we go to sleep, and it's 68 or 70 when we wake up in the morning. So we don't have these big temperature swings. But at the same time, we constantly have fresh air coming into the house, and we love that. It's wonderful to go up and put your hand on the register and know that instead of just old air that's gone through the furnace and come back for another cycle through the house, it actually was outside 30 seconds ago. You've recovered the heat from the stale exhaust air, put it into the fresh incoming air, and you're breathing air just as if you were outside.